We're speaking here about the forehand. The forehand, shoulders, withers, breast, neck, head. The head's in parentheses because really you have to be thinking about the section of the horse in front of the girth. The head in parentheses is just because it is at the end of the neck. But don't focus on the head. Correct training aims to perfect and make instant the displaceableness of the forehand. And for this to happen, the forehand must be united so that the head doesn't go one way and the shoulders go another or stay stuck on the ground, for example. The front end has to be united in order for it to be displaceable, and it must be displaceable for your horse to be rideable. The displacement of the forehand is activated by the natural aids. The forehand is, think of it as everything in front of the girth. There are two golden rules in riding, and those two golden rules are forward and straight. And to understand straightness or to achieve straightness, the forehand must be displaceable. This is why the classes that came before this one are so important. So if you haven't done the classes that came before this one, quit this one and go back and do those, because you'll wreck this one if you don't know those. But I am going to do a little review right now, because we need to review this 40 years on. This is it. There is a line of travel that a horse has to be on, because the manner in which the hind legs follow the forehand upon this line determines everything in riding. And it's like a little peephole. You either get through that little peephole, like the what do they call it? Like the eye of a needle, or the riding is wrong. And that's a strict statement, but it's the case. The following, the commitment of the forehand to the line of travel and the following of the hind legs upon that identical line, absolutely, the riding absolutely. Go back and replay that last minute a couple times. You have to understand this. So this must needs that we are extremely, vividly, perfectly aware and understand the line of travel in riding. And it's not just for jumping. The line of travel is the prescribed line. It has a beginning and an end point. It is the line we're on now. You will always be upon a line, and you must be able to identify the line you're on. Now, there are two types of lines possible physically. The line can be a straight line or a curved line. The well-trained horse's mission is to carry upon this prescribed and known line of travel. He shall not deviate from the line. A curved line is a circle line or an arc of the circle, a section of the circle. Now, let's go back to the requirements of straight. For the horse to be straight, again, we're going to say it. The hind feet and have to follow the front feet precisely on the intended line of travel, and the horse's entire spine from pole to dock must cover the line. So the only way that we can make the spine of the horse cover a curving line is if we can, at will, completely and easily displace the forehand that is preceding the hindquarters on this curving line as we're going. You see this? Replay this several times. Okay, so we can't have a horse that goes around like an oil tanker. We must be able to separate the front end, keep it united, and displace it at will in order for a horse to be straight. You're going to have an assignment coming up, which is to study the requirements of a turn as set forth by the cavalry instructions. The forehand gets it to the turn first. It must displace onto the turning line. On a proper trained, somewhat finished horse, I can navigate a turning line, a curved line, via my weight and leg aids. However, for a finished situation, which is what we do in this curriculum, we need the forehand cooperating and participating to that end also. So we have to be able to address the forehand separately from the hindquarters, even though we must never lose sight of the fact that it must co-act. So this is a little tricky here. Yes, we're going to look at the forehand and train and treat the forehand separate from the hindquarters, but never train a horse without the co-action of the well-trained hindquarters plus the well-trained forehand. We train them isolated, separate, in order that their effects co-act. I really pray I'm not contradicting myself here and that you understand this. The pole flexions address only the lower jaw of the horse. These are taught responses. They affect the lower jaw, and they are separated into two different sensations that are spelled out as either direct flexions or lateral flexions. Lateral just means side. So the bit's action is a signal that informs the horse with a direct sensation or a one-sided sensation. Flexions, sometimes called pole flexions. Now this is a great misnomer because bone can't bend. Bones do not yield. So instead they should have been called releases, but for some reason they're not. So that's just one of the peculiarities of the terminology in riding. These sensations that we teach the horse when he's a little boy, or a little girl, that are either direct or one-sided, the ABCs of these are called rein actions. There is a leading rein, which is a direct forward action, and there is an opening rein, which is a leading rein acting upon only one side. Then next introduced is what was originally known as a bearing rein, and it is the bearing rein that unites the forehand so that when a single rein is deployed, the entire forehand displaces. The bearing rein unites, or some people call it, say, binds the forehand into a united whole so that a single rein action can inform the entire forehand. Replay that. Write it down. Memorize it until it's really obvious to you. Getting these 3 simple rein actions done, and especially this bearing rein done, is how horses can be ridden uphill, forward, and straight on the bit. It cannot be done without these rein actions. You don't need all the extra fancy rein actions with the complicated names. Those will actually come like ripe fruit when you get these ABCs installed. All right, we're going to start on this now.